everybody. This is Dr. Russ Jones.
And Brad Kennan here.
We are wide open. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
Yeah? Good?
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. Just home. Little sunshine. Thankful to be away from the office for a bit here. I just saw you last weekend. Tell me what your impressions were of the Ohio Bigfoot Conference.
So it was good this year. We got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a while. Probably my favorite, in updating everybody on what he's done over the last year, which is a lot. He's getting a lot of activity in his research area, lots of casts, he's actually got juvenile handprint. He showed us of a cast of that. And I enjoyed hearing Meldrum talk with some pretty good ideas, which I would have never thought about. You thought he was a little controversial.
Yeah.
And you thought he was a little controversial because he was doing the 200-to-1 versus bear, which I think on the Eastern Coast that we can take that ratio and shrink that ratio to that 100-to-1.
Right.
At least because out west, they have giant swaths of land, forests. Here on the east, we have giant swaths of forest, but we have homes, gardens, agriculture mixed in with them. So it increases the food quite a bit, in my opinion. So the sustainability is much higher per acre than it is out west.
Yeah, let's just say that since part of Ohio is in Appalachia, that Appalachia in general, the food per acre through Appalachia is some of the very highest in the whole country, with the exception of maybe the Pacific Northwest, like on the coastal ranges or something, maybe a little bit more. But I guess what was controversial, I thought, with Meldrum was, he was making an estimate on how many of the species do you need for them to be able to reproduce. And he was using studies based on gorillas and said the gorillas needed around 250 animals to reproduce. But, they're relatively in a small range when you consider a Bigfoot in Montana or California is probably not mating with a Bigfoot in Ohio or Florida.
Sure.
So I'm not sure that's really, it's interesting, but I'm not sure how relevant it is. In addition, he thought that the state of Ohio probably had around 24 Bigfoot.
Right.
Or if you're not moneymaker, Bigfoots.
Right. So number one, on the viable breeding population, I thought it was interesting that gorillas have basically evolved or changed, adapted. We're not going to say evolved because they've adapted to their environment, to the fact that they can interbreed and not have recessive genes like humans do. So those recessive genes do not show up if they mate with closely related kin.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
That is very interesting. I never thought about that. Whereas if humans mate with very closely related kin, there's a propensity to have mental facilities degraded and different things happen. That's why you can't marry your cousin unless you live in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Right.
So you could Google the Whitaker family on YouTube, Whitakers of West Virginia, and see what inbreeding looks like inside with humans.
Absolutely. They're
why we, that is a big deal, what you said. He thought that nationally in the lower 48, that there was probably around 1,500 Bigfoot. One of the arguments he made for that was showing of the black bear and overlapping range with the Bigfoot. But, he showed the historical range, and in Ohio, the black bear largely covered the great majority of the state. And one of the things he didn't consider is that it's not that there's not room or that they're not there. It's just that they haven't really extended that far. So there is certainly room for them. There is certainly space for them. So he's essentially said that the entire western portion of Ohio, that any Bigfoot report there should be considered suspect. And, you know, I mean, you consider what is 2 weeks from now, the BFRO is having their expedition in Ohio. And lo and behold, it's in the central western portion of Ohio.
Correct, because there's a lot of activity over there.
And I think that even Jeff would admit that the BFRO people in each state probably are a lot more knowledgeable about where the Bigfoot are in, you know, a particular state, you know, because he lives in Idaho and he's doing his circuit and all that stuff. And so, you know, I think that what you said is right. You know, Matt Moneymaker used to say that there was a Bigfoot for each 69 bears. Grover Krantz said it was 100 bears. Jeff, and I'm not sure where he was getting this, I don't recall. I think he told us he was giving the number 200, which I thought for probably out west where they have to have much more acreage. You know, he was thinking 1,000 square miles. You know, but even out west, the bear range is much, much greater than it is on the eastern United States or in Appalachia in particular. So I'm just not sure that what he was using, what he was positing was, you know, relative. It's interesting to talk about. It certainly encouraged me. I thought that's my next topic that I'm going to do research and write on is, you know, trying to get a firmer number. I mean,
Right.
I suspect that Jeff is under pressure, you know, from the professional side, and he probably is making a very, very conservative argument, at the very least, the animal that would be possible, and that's probably close to the number, you know.
Right, because it can't be zero. So,
yeah,
you know, he can't say zero.
Right.
So,
right.
In his professional opinion, he can't say zero. So,
What did you think of? I mean, I thought our boss Doug Hychek was great.
He was.
Did you enjoy his talk?
I did enjoy him. I forgot to even talk, but yeah, he did some great things and showed some really interesting stuff, and that was pretty neat. So, yeah,
he's an interesting person. Of course, we had him on a podcast twice, I think, and
right.
the guests or the listeners liked him. And
right.
you know, when you see the different things he's done in his life, if I remember the numbers right, he's had 2,000 patents. He's produced over 200 shows.
Right.
I mean, you know,
and he told me that we're up to almost 10,000 subscribers. So therefore, we're all going to get these little plaques that say 10,000 subscribers from YouTube on them. That's just YouTube. So once that happens, you know, YouTube will actually see that we're a viable entity on their platform, and they will actually do a little bit better job of promoting us and getting a little wider audience. So we'll see how that goes.
Hey, how cool is that?
That's absolutely
right. What else? Who else was there that
I get the plaque, by the way?
That's okay. I'm good with that.
All right.
Was there anybody else that talked that Matt Pruitt, our friend Matt Pruitt?
Yep. You know, it's funny because he went kind of against what Meldrum said, you know, which makes sense because he basically made the argument looking at Occam's razor, stating that, you know, Bigfoot's sustainable. Where'd it come from and what is it? And basically said, hey, we got this Bering Land Bridge that connected Asia to United States. And what was in Asia, we have proof of Gigantopithecus blacki. And that's probably what come over. And that's what Bigfoot is, which that makes perfect sense to me because Meldrum compared it to Australopithecus.
Yes. Yeah, Australopithecines.
Except they're only 5 feet tall. But his point is we don't have the fossil records for everybody. So therefore, there could be one that's 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just we haven't found it yet. So
yeah, we don't. The odds are that whatever Bigfoot would be, we have not seen. That's the odds are. But of what we have seen, the most likely candidate would be something from the clade of the Eastern Asia, which
correct.
You know, that happens to be where Gigantopithecus comes from.
Right, and that makes perfect sense to me. So I like
Matt.
Me
too.
I like Matt.
Yeah.
We stood around and talked afterwards, and he's a great guy. And we had I look forward. He invited us down to go Bigfooting with him in Georgia, and
North Georgia.
We need to do that. So
Matt's a great guy, really bright. Makes us all look smart.
Yeah, he does. Yes, absolutely. And that was kind of the thing that we had some people that kind of were with us for the first time at the Bigfoot conference, and they didn't quite realize that people that do this aren't just crazy people. You know, we are intelligent. We are we have opinions and we're not nuts. And, you know, I liked what Cliff said right when he started up, that Bigfoot is a living, breathing animal. It's flesh and blood. It's not woo. It's not magical. It is a thing that makes footprints. It walks, and it has physical evidence, period. Everything else, you're just jump off a cliff somewhere.
And Meldrum said that essentially as well, right? I mean,
yes,
and of course, Pruitt did as well. So I think that in general, it could be said that the guests that were at, and which were probably some of the most well-known in the country that were at the biggest Bigfoot conference in the country, were flesh and blood type thing. And they're open, I think, to hearing the other things. It's just that, you know, let's, you know, get where we know, or get back to the basics before we do some of this other stuff.
Right. So on that,
okay,
do you know what is a great way to see a Bigfoot?
How about we go fund us and we go spend
a bunch of money
a year in the woods? Yeah, we spend a bunch of money.
That would be great.
Okay, it's not what you had in mind.
Or let me just throw this out there. One of the BFRO members,
okay,
he's kind of local to me, kind of to you too. You went to school with his wife.
Yeah, I did.
He was there, and we're grabbing him on here because one of the best ways to see a Bigfoot is at night through a thermal. So we have Damon from Advanced Thermal Optics joining us right now. He was at the show. He's got his display set up right behind him, and we're going to talk thermals and his experiences, because he is a BFRO guy and he does go in the woods. Damon, great to have you with us tonight. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you, Brad and Russ, for having me on the show this evening. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Damon, it's good to see you, my friend. And I was glad to get to see you this weekend, and Sandy as well.
Wonderful.
So you have a company called Advanced Thermal Optics, right on the BFRO website. You can go right on there, and we're going to talk thermals, because there's a lot of people out there. We talk, you know, a lot about thermal drones, and, you know, $5,000 here, $7,000, $8,000 here, whatever that is. But if you want a thermal, you can get started for $1,000.
Absolutely. And get a very good thermal for that, Brad, as well.
Right. So the one right behind you right there, but if people don't watch, and it's the S243W, which you were telling me some features that thing had, which is pretty amazing.
It's amazing. This thermal has been out for about 9 years now, and it just gets better and better and better. And so it's the same along with the programs that it runs on as well. It's went from 7-hour battery life to 10-hour battery life now on a single charge, which is absolutely fantastic.
That's got nuts.
It is.
Are you serious? 10 hours?
10 hours of runtime on this one now.
That's crazy.
We used to have to take like 4 sets of batteries in the woods on the old Fleer Scouts.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
Damon, does it have I know one of the things I always disliked in the past was you had to use like the micro screwdriver to unscrew it. Does it have easier way to access the batteries, or is it just rechargeable?
It's rechargeable lithium ion, and it's internal. You never have to mess with it. It's good. They're telling me for over 10 years this battery.
That's crazy. I mean, the technology improving. I know that my Fleer that I had, the rechargeable battery maybe lasted maybe a year, maybe not even a year, because you're out there in, you know, bad conditions. And then after that, I had to use that micro screwdriver, and what a mess, man. It was just like, you're in the woods, you're trying to unscrew that thing, you can't see, you're using a red light, something else.
Right.
Yes.
So
it's got 5 different palettes. It changes, you know, you can go iron, you can go red hot, you can go white hot, you can go black, and it'll do like just 2 colors if you want. It also has a red point in it. It's got a hotspot locator. So if you're having problems, you're looking out through a field and you'd rather rely on something else, it's got its own hotspot red dot, and it will go to the hottest area, and it'll show you automatically, and it'll give you a temperature reading, which is really nice as well. It's 4 times zoom, and it records, and it takes photos, and it's got a 16 internal gigabyte chip in it, so which is really nice. And then the app is wonderful. It's instead of being Bluetooth, it's Wi-Fi. So you can get quite a bit more distance than your typical 30, 40 feet. You know, when you're Bluetoothing something, you just don't have that. I can take this thing and literally put it almost a football field away, and I can watch it on my phone simultaneously, either on an iPad or a telephone.
How many people could you Bluetooth it to?
No,
Now,
Wi-Fi.
That's a good thing.
Right.
I could probably, at least 2 I know for sure, but I don't know if we could give that IP address for the Wi-Fi and go any further than that. We'd probably have to go into a box and then go with an IP address to even spread it out further than that.
So it's what you're saying. If you have one of these, so we're just going to say, husbands, if you want one, you can buy one, and both you and the wife or significant other can both basically use the thermal at the same time, so you don't have to be passing back and forth. You can just stand there with it on, point it out. You could watch it on your phone, so you're not getting thermal eye by sticking up to your eye and, you know, it's getting white hot and you put your down and next thing you know, it's bright. You can't see anything. You're literally can be watching, both of you can be watching this on your phone.
Absolutely. Right? Or iPad.
So,
phone or iPad.
Or iPad.
Yes.
So that's pretty impressive. That's built in. We used to have to build those, you know, back in the day.
So this is the one that BFRO itself is advertising, so to speak, on their website. Is that right?
That is correct. And we have been selling it since 2019. This month, it's 5 years.
Dang. All right, Brad, I got a thermal question, or I guess I'll say to Damon. One thing I'm curious about, I know you got other things to talk about, but I was curious when you were saying, you know, about this in general. Has the technology improved any? You know, of course, in the past, the big issue with when we were looking through thermals is if we could hear a wood knock, we'd hear something in the woods, but sometimes if it was thick, I mean, we just couldn't see what was there. Is there any advances beyond using drones to be able to, you know, see through the thick stuff anymore? Is it any better than it was?
It's come a long way, Russ. I tell you, one of the best things, one of the things that's really brought it a long way are the increased sensitivity and the lens size. A lot of these always had like 15. They were 15s, maybe 25. Now we're up to 35 and 50. You know, the lens sizes. So it's made an incredible difference in the sense. You know, how sensitive they really are.
Right. I mean, that's encouraging. There's nothing worse than when you hear something in the woods and you try to look and you just can't see anything. I don't know how many times Brad and I have had that happen a lot of times, even when we were together, that something would make a noise or a wood knock and it was close to us and we'd run over there and we'd look, you know, and there was just nothing there. Maybe because Bigfoot opened up his portal and climbed inside real quick and slammed it shut and we were left looking at nothing. I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
Also, 4 of these thermals in front of me right now have microphones. So not only are you able to narrate what you're looking at, you know, it's all there. You don't have to go back and put the words to what you saw out there in the field. They've got microphones and you can run them with a mic or without a microphone.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because that's something the FLIRs never had, like the Scouts never had. So let's say
most of them all have the microphones built in, and you can shut it off or turn it on or whatever you need to do. And that's
all right. So that's entry level. So for $1,000, you know, you can be an entry level thermal in the woods at night. So let's say I'm not entry level, I'm mid level.
Okay.
What would you suggest for somebody that wants to take that step up?
Okay.
Something a little better. The next step up, we're not going full blown, you know, crazy yet. We're just going to go mid level. What would
$14.99? $14.99 a pulsar unit. It's the M30F right here. It's a phenomenal unit right here.
Okay.
It's got a fantastic program. Again, we're getting a microphone. We have the technology. We have the microphone. Again, we're able to take video, pictures, and again, we're getting out. We're getting still 8 to 10 hours out of this unit too, as well.
So detection range on that, I'm looking at some specs. That's 1,300 meters. Is that correct?
That's for a guy, or right. It'll detect a car 2,600 meters, but it'll detect an animal or a human up to over 1,300 yards. That is correct.
Okay, so that's kind of the difference we're getting at here from an entry level. So the next level we go up, we're probably getting maybe a different magnification, maybe like a true, not a digital zoom, but a true zoom, possibly.
We're still having digital zooms here. We're still with the digital zoom here.
Okay, so is the zoom magnification a little higher?
It is, yes.
Okay, so we have higher magnification.
We've gone up with a higher, yes, we've gone up with a higher. Let me just double check that one there. That's a 3 to 12.
Right.
Instead of 1 to 4, we're 3 to 12. So we've got quite a bit more zoom capability.
Okay. So, and this is for an extra $500. Right. So now we're kind of at that mid level. So now we said, okay, I won a scratch off ticket. You know, I didn't win the lottery, because if I won the lottery, I'm buying something crazy. I want a good scratch off ticket. What's the top of the line that you sell that you would say, you know what, this thing right here, this is what you need?
I tell you, the top of the line, we get into the Pulsar top of the line. They're binoculars. They're just absolutely incredible. They're 1024 by 786.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's about as high as I have seen on a consumer purchase that you can buy one. I mean, they're totally amazing. It's got the 50 millimeter lenses in it. It's anti-fog. It's got it's water resistant if you accidentally drop it.
Not waterproof, just water resistant, right?
Right. Now, detection on that one is for a man 2,300 yards. So we're talking close to, pretty close to 3/4 of a mile.
So right there, I'm on their website. This is the Pulsar XL50.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty decent resolution right there.
Absolutely. You can see it breathing from 400 to 500 yards. You can even see it breathing at night. It's got a built-in laser rangefinder, which is pretty interesting too. It tells you exactly how far. Yes, if you want to use the rangefinder, it tells you exactly.
Oh wow!
How far they're out.
That resolution. So you're looking at about a 4 times more resolution than the entry-level unit.
Oh my gosh! At least yes. And 2x20, so it's got an incredible zoom in it.
And yeah, now you got a 20 zoom also. So that thing's going, you can reach out across the field and get something. So
yes,
that's. Are we still looking about the same battery life?
We're at least 10 hours. Yes.
Okay.
That's nuts.
What was the price on something like that?
Right.
The price on the top of the line, there's two of them. One of them's about $5,900, and that's with the 640 528. Now they go up to the top of the line, which is right around 8,000, and that's the 1024 by 768. So you're getting better clarity. Again, you've got everything, your pictures, your video. You can put a lot larger card. You can run a 128 card in it for hours and hours of continual video. You can turn it on and just leave it and come back and 5 or 6 hours and check on things if you like, or let it go to the next morning and then take the card out. I mean, it'll continually record.
Wow. So I can see here too that you are actually right. You can actually submerge this in water 1 meter for 30 minutes. So Russ, when you're walking across a stream at night and you fall down in the water, it's not ruined.
I guess the thing I think that is so appealing, aside from the fact that the resolution is so good, really on everything now, is the fact that, it used to power off when we had the original FLIRs we were using. If you weren't using it for a couple of minutes, it would just power off, and it was only good maybe for a couple hours as it was. But now it seems like you could set it up to watch your campsite while you're sleeping and just leave it set there idly watching, and then in the morning, review if there was anything that came in last night. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. Yes.
So
Dang.
yeah, because especially if you get in it, like, you've been out all night, and when you're out in the woods, you're not using that thermal constantly, because we were always just afraid of, man, it seemed like we used the freaking thing for 5 minutes. Next thing you know, the little battery lights on red, and we're having to switch them out. You get back at 1 o'clock in the morning, you set your thermal up, turn it on, and the next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. It's only been 5 hours. So you could use that thing all night in the woods and then all night on your camp and still, have battery. That's pretty amazing.
Or what about if you found an awesome place that was like a mile back into the wilderness? And, I know that we've done that. I've done it personally with the $500 FLIR, which I think it's called the Scout.
The TK.
TK.
Yeah.
And so, you could I put it on a stump when I was walking down a trail or whatever, and I would just leave it there, so that it was monitoring whatever came on that trail after me or whatever, and I'd pick it up on my way back through. But, now you have the option that, of course, you're leaving something very expensive in the woods,
Right.
And if Bigfoot decides he wants to play with it or whatever, then it would probably make you really sick to your stomach, unless I guess you could put an air tag on it.
Right.
Duct tape an air tag on it and see where it goes.
Absolutely. Great idea.
So this is all number one, this is all available through the BFRO website because you're the official retailer for the BFRO. By the end of the week, or you said you're going to update your website, which we'll post that in the show notes.
A couple more thermals we're going to be introducing, Brad.
Yep. Go ahead. Tell us.
A couple more thermals. We have a handheld that's that we're coming out that we're going to be selling by RIX, who makes phenomenal optics, especially for the hunting industry. They do a wonderful job with their thermals. Very clear picture of night vision, and both thermal and night vision at the same time. Just fantastic.
Oh, wow.
They've got a handheld unit that we're going to be selling for $499. That's fantastic. 6 hours. It does video. It does your still pictures, of course, and it's got a zoom as well, and it's about half the size of the BFRO one. But again, it doesn't have quite that 388, the 380, the 280. It's not quite that.
But it's half the price.
It's half the price.
You said it has night vision. So are they using IR lights on it, or?
This specific one does not. I'm saying they're more expensive scopes. They've introduced have night vision along with thermal as well.
Okay. All right. So the $500 one just
doesn't. At the $499 range, it does not have that.
Okay. It's just a thermal.
Right, but it does have the 5 different color palettes on it.
Okay.
Doesn't do near the job that the BFRO does for twice that price, but it's still a very nice unit. You can't simultaneously watch it on a, you can view it when you're done. You can view it back on a telephone, but you can't watch it at the same time it's recording or you're viewing with it.
Right. So no Wi-Fi capability at that point in time, or Bluetooth.
Correct. Not while it's in use.
Correct. So you also are adding, because I know you sell thermal drones, which is my favorite. So you have looks like a DJI.
Right, the Maverick. Right.
Yep. So is that the Mavic 3T?
Correct. The Enterprise 3T.
Okay, so that's the Enterprise 3T.
Wow.
That drone is what, $6,000 or something around there, or something like that.
It's $5,500.
Okay. Plus, everybody needs extra batteries and all the other stuff.
Right. You'll want to pick up at least one extra battery with it.
Right, and that's the RC2 controller, right? So,
correct.
So we're recommending, if you get a thermal drone, there's 2 controller types that you can get. You can get one that you have it on, you clip your smartphone on there, and you're flying around and you're using the Fly app by DJI, but it's running through your smartphone. My suggestion is pay the extra couple $100 get the RC2 controller, because that is it's a nicer controller. You don't have to rely on your cell phone in case your cell phone goes dead. You get a phone call, you start getting texts as you're watching a Bigfoot. We don't want that to happen. Use the RC2 controller, the one that's comes with it, and or the upgraded one. So make sure you get that.
How long is the flight life on that battery, and how much is a replacement cost on the battery, or for an extra battery?
Replacement on the battery is less than $150, and the flight on this one's about 38 minutes.
Okay. How long does it take to charge one of the batteries?
About 3.5 to 4 hours for a full charge.
Okay, so probably, I mean, for less than $150, I mean, if you have the money to afford one, it seems like you really need to just buy a few batteries, because you'd like to have it, one comes out of the air, it's been out there for a half hour, then you send another one up and you're charging, and so you got 3.5 hours before one's completely done.
And I've realized too, depending on the weather conditions, if it's a little colder, maybe the batteries don't last as long. If it's windy out, they don't last as long. Plus, I mean, you're talking, I think for DJI, I think their chargers come with about maybe three slots. You're maybe charging 3 batteries at a time anyway. So Correct. You got one in the unit and you're charging 3. If you're buying a $5,000-$6,000 drone, just buy the freaking batteries.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going to want to get the thing. If you see some stuff, you're going to want to get it back off the ground as quick as possible once you get it back. So that's correct.
Absolutely. So, Damon, now on to the next segment of the show.
Wait a second, I got a question about two questions.
Go ahead.
One, the $500 thermal that you said it was going to be coming available. Mm-hmm. Is that one eye or two eye?
Is it
like a binocular or a monocular?
No, it's a monocular single.
Okay, so many people are buying the FLIR TK as their entrance in that as $500. Is this significantly better than that one?
Significantly better. Oh my gosh, we're talking 5 years different technology at least. Yeah, it's far advanced.
Okay. Another question. I think that initially Brad and I, when we thought about drones and thermals and on the drones, we weren't sure about it. And then we spent time with Moneymaker for a few days, and we kind of became convinced that maybe it was a big deal. But one of the things I'm just not sure of is, do you think that we can get a clear enough picture or video with the drone that, because thus far, I mean, there's some stuff out there on thermals, that across the nation, but there's nothing that has compelled scientists or academics to take a look. Do you think it's possible to get something that's good enough that those people will be interested?
Absolutely. The terrain has a lot to do with it if it's in thick brush or terrain, but if you can get within 100 feet of it, I think that you could get some phenomenal footage with the zooms on them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. You're going to get much closer with the drone than you are any other possible instrument.
Okay, Brad, go on to your next section.
I do believe that. So now we're on to the next section. So Damon, you're not only a business owner, you have several businesses and things like that. You practice what you preach.
Yes.
Meaning you go into the woods all the time.
Yes.
And you have some Bigfoot stories.
Yes, I do.
So
I've been doing this for a little over 10 years, been interested in the topic for 35 years. When I was in Somerset, Ohio, working in the oil and gas industry, we had scraped off this was 35 years ago, we scraped off a nice flat area about 50 by 100 to set up a tank battery for oil equipment. We scraped it off the night before, and then I left the location about 6 o'clock. This was in February, okay, and the temperature was, right around the 20-degree mark. I came back the next morning. I was meeting gravel trucks out there at 6:30 in the morning. I got on the site, and I noticed that there was footprints all over that soft soil. There was footprints, and I bet there was probably, I'm going to say 40 to 50 foot tracks. in it, and where they were, I think that it felt good to them on their feet. It was weird. It was just like they were playing in the dirt. It was amazing. I showed a few other people that, and they just, they just shook their head. They didn't think much of it. I thought a lot about it. There's nobody out there, with size 13 to 16 foot out there walking around.
So I'm going to officially say that if you would have cast that 35 years ago, you would officially have the longest set of Bigfoot tracks in the state of Ohio, right?
Okay. Yeah, they were all.
I'm just going to say that. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that.
Okay.
And Russ knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So anyway, but that's what got me. That was got me interested, and then kids and life. That it went on the back burner for that. And in the last 10 years, since about 2013, we've been hitting it pretty heavy, doing a lot of hiking. We've been on over 20 BFRO expeditions. We've been guides for the last 3.5 years on the BFRO expeditions. We really enjoy it. We're blessed to be able to do that.
So I heard a story about some logs being thrown at you, and then maybe one about some Bigfoot on a ridge, possibly.
Yeah.
So
we were in Nashville, Indiana,
okay.
at the campgrounds just right west of there, and just off one of the gravel roads. We were about a half a mile north of the lake there, and we pulled off into it's kind of like a turnaround, and
mm-hmm.
if you see 3 or 4 cars in a whole evening, you're doing something. This was during the week. We made some calls, and we weren't getting very much action. And then one of the guys pulled out a wounded rabbit call. And he ran that thing 2 or 3 times. And all of a sudden it sounded like somebody had a big mower or a bulldozer, but we heard stuff crashing through the forest, coming for us. I mean, it actually sounded like a front end loader, but the way it was knocking over trees and running through the woods to get to us. And it stopped probably about 60, 70 yards out. There was about 5 or 6 of us. I was with the BFRO over in Indiana, and it was one of their camping trips. And we heard all kinds of ruckus, yelling, screaming. Like I said, it sounds like trees were getting knocked down. The next thing we know, it gets real quiet. And then we start getting rocks thrown at us from 3 different directions. And wow. they were small rocks. I mean, they're probably about the size of maybe a quarter or smaller, quarter to a nickel size. But it was not completely dark yet. I mean, it was still about a half hour before dark. And you could hear the rocks coming as they came through the leaves and the trees. You could hear them coming the different directions toward us. And that went on for probably about an hour. And then after that, it just seemed to just completely disappear.
Wow.
That was a neat experience.
Out of the 175 Bigfoot in these 5 states, you had 3 of them throwing rocks at you. That's pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, at least that many came in. There was 3 different directions. It had to, and when I say 3 different directions, the rocks came in within just a couple minutes of each other. So, I mean, it couldn't have been the same one going to all 3 locations and throw them, because they were completely exact opposite directions where the rocks were.
I'm using my sarcasm as a to kind of prove that it'd be tough for 3 out of the 175 in 4 states to be around you. You know, so there's got to be more. The population has to be much larger.
I would definitely say.
So we're talking about, because you being a thermal dealer, you have thermals all the time. You have thermal drones. You have all the neat toys. You've had several sightings in the woods using your thermals, haven't you?
I have. I've had around Carter Caves, Kentucky. I've had numerous sightings. I have Rehoboth, Kentucky, which is probably, I don't know, southwest of Carter Caves, Kentucky. We had one evening, there was 20 of us in our group, and we were out looking at an outcropping of rocks, and we watched for 20 minutes. I had two thermals with me. I had a FLIR at the time, and I had an EOTech at the time. And we were watching two of them right next to each other, just kind of looking over the rock, the outcrop of the rocks. And they were probably, I'm going to say they were probably about 200 to 300 yards away. But they stayed there, and they'd walk up and they'd raise their arm up in the air, and you could see their arm. And then, there's another one beside them, but they kept looking down at us. It was funny. And like I said, there was 20 in our group, and we passed the thermal back. So everybody got a chance to view.
So did those thermals record? That's what everybody's going to ask.
At the time, no, neither one of them did. Neither one of these did. These were earlier thermals, and neither one of them did.
So people don't understand. People thinks that, hey, you have a thermal, obviously it's got to record, blah, blah, blah. They don't understand that a lot of times on those original thermals, there was generally an extra cable that you had to buy, and then you had to go to an external recording device. And, like I said, back in the day, we used to have the hoods. I don't know if you were on the BFR expedition. We used to have that. Remember that? Where you had the thermal, the XP200, and you have to have a hood on. And then you had that it was like a CD recorder ROM or something with a little screen on it that we pop open, and we plug the wire into it. And if you move the thermal a little weird, the plug would come undone or go fuzzy, and you couldn't see crap, and then you have no night vision. So when these things first came out, they were not easy to use.
It was archaic.
Yeah, it was not easy. Yeah. So people want to say that that's not true and blah, whatever. But I'm telling you right now, when these things first came out, they were not easy to use. So.
Yes. Carter Caves, again, camping about 2 years later. I watched one, and again, I did have record on, although I didn't get to the record button quick enough. But I watched one. I heard something out there, and I looked, and I seen something walking. It was on the hill behind us, about 100 yards, but I seen something going across, and the hillside kind of went down about 10 feet. And I just seen something just going right across that way, and then it kind of disappeared down into the lower.
Right.
So it's twice that I'd seen them down at Carter Caves. I also seen them out at Clear Creek too as well. Me and my girlfriend and my daughter and her boyfriend were standing there we went out, of course, looking for them. And we went out and we sat for about a half hour, and I turned the thermal on because I heard something down the road, and I noticed that there was two of them, and they were kind of standing behind trees, but they were coming closer. One would go to another tree, and then another one would come up to another tree, and they got closer and closer, and they were bright white from head to toe. And I was passing the thermal back and forth, and that I did record, and I did record it on a TK, by the way.
Wow.
And we both, we all got a chance to see that. And then all of a sudden I looked again, my daughter passed it back to me. I looked again, and they were completely gone. But we watched them probably for, I would say at least, I think the whole time it was about 2 minutes, but they kept coming closer and closer and closer. And then all of a sudden they just completely were gone.
Were you doing something to attract them?
No, you know what? We were just pulled off the side of the road. This was off of Pump Station Road out at Clear Creek. And we were just being quiet. It was like a little turn-off place where you can just pull like a vehicle or two off the road. We just sat there because I've seen a lot of tree structures in that area, and I kind of wanted to just kind of go back and spend some time there.
Right.
Brad and I took a report there at Lake Ramona. Is that what? Am I remembering that right, Brad?
That's correct.
Yeah, we took a great report there, and Brad and I put it together on the BFRO website, and it was published. And we did some scent studies out there for a year and kept cameras out there in that general area. Of course, like many times, we just didn't get much, but it's an interesting area because, you really can't be in there. You can't have a dog. You have to be on the trails. It's only open in the daytime. They only let you, in one section of it. It's a 5,000 acre area. It's about a half hour south of Columbus, but it's in the Metro Park system from Columbus.
Right.
Yes.
So Damon and he invited me at some point. We're going to go out in the woods. We're going to take our drones or whatever, thermals, and we're going to go out and we're going to look for these things during the week. So there's nobody going to be out there, which people also don't understand. As probably the TKs. I remember the FLIR scouts and stuff. You're literally, it's at night. You can't have the thermal on all the time because the batteries die or they go on standby. So when you hear something, you pull it up, the thing's not on, you have to hit the button, it's got to fire up, and it's got to come out of standby. Then you got to hit the record button. So now you're recording because you only have, back then you had small, they weren't even micro SD cards. They were generally just SD cards. Sometimes they weren't huge, so you couldn't record a whole lot. Then you got to find the right button to hit, and you're trying to record and you're hitting the zoom button or the back zoom button, or you're changing the white light to white hot to black hot, and you're trying to find the right buttons. So now I know that these things now have 8 hours, 10 hours of recording time, of use time. You can literally go out there and keep that record button on, and you can see, go get a 256 gig micro SD card, slam it in there, and you're going to get a lot of recording. So I'm kind of interested in this, and maybe I'm going to have to get one. Now you showed me at the show, there's actually one that's like a screen almost. So It's not just a little eye hole. It's like you pull it up and you're looking at like something almost the size, about half the size of an iPhone. So it's not a single eye, it's a double eye, but it's not binoculars. Which one was that?
I tell you, that's right behind me, but it's this unit right here. I don't know if you're able to see that on there or not.
Yep, we can see
a 35 millimeter main lens. This thing's, I love it because you've got, when you think about the two eye holes, when you're looking through a set of binoculars, this gives you a whole nice screen. It's about 4 inches by about 2.25 high by about 4 inches. It gives you a really nice screen. You can look through it without putting it up against your face even, and you can turn the brightness way down. So when you do look through it, you're not blind afterwards. So I think it's the best of both worlds. This one right here is a 388, 288. They have a 640, 528 as well. And this is by RIX. It's the one, the RIX Aurora 3. Now they have a 6.2, which is 640, and it's less than $3,000. It's absolutely amazing. I think it's $2,600, and now you're going to 640. It's just amazing. It records. It's got a 10-hour battery life. It's just amazing.
So you're at a 1,300 yard detection range, and I'm looking here. You have a 2.69 inch display, which that's across. It's a little, and you're getting that 4 to 16 magnification also. Yes, you've got fantastic. And for $199, it's just amazing. And it's the 1999, not $199. Right. Yeah, $1999. Right. It's the fastest. I think it's the fastest thermal on the market. It's just you can see through it before you even get it up to your face. And if you got glasses, it's amazing because you don't have to worry about fighting the glasses and it keeping your eyes away because you don't have to be up against this one. During this in bright daylight, it's good to put your forehead against it, to get that top light blocked out. But during the night, you don't even have to bring it all the way up to your face, and you can just hold it and just kind of move it around. It's just absolutely amazing. Which people don't understand that too, is thermals are not just for nighttime. No, they can be used during the daytime, and I use my thermal drone during the daytime, and I find all kinds of stuff you can't see. Exactly. Things are laying down in the grass, things that are in the trees. You can actually see this stuff during the daytime because heat is a wavelength. It's a non-visible wavelength. So the thermals, that's what they pick up.
Brad, didn't you tell me that you had some deer laying down, and you absolutely could not see them at all with your drone. But then when you switched to thermal, it was really obvious in the daytime.
Absolutely. I was flying in the afternoon, a brown field of grass. You know, the grass is about 3 foot high across the field. I literally flow the drone around, don't see anything at all, flip thermal on, and there's deer laying here, deer bedded down here, deer bedded down here. I literally went down, got fairly close. I turned the thermal on, turn the thermal off, turn the thermal on, turn the thermal off, and I literally could not see them at all. And I'm zoomed in. I've got the thing on them. I'm like, there's no way there's anything there. I flip thermal on, and there it's laying right there looking at me. And I'm just like, you know, the stuff that we probably miss during the daytime is quite a bit. So good thing we have large brains.
I think that a lot of times everything in nature just stands still. You know, when humans are coming through, whether it's car, four-wheeler, side-by-side, or just walking, I think most of the time that most of the animals are, you know, just standing still. I've seen that a lot when I've been deer hunting and somebody or something comes through and I'm in a deer stand and I watch deer move just a little bit and they just stand still until, you know, everything goes. And you hear that all the time with Bigfoot reports. It's like the Bigfoot a lot of times just don't move until they know they've been spotted. You know, they just sit perfectly still.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, we even just squat down and mimic a stump or, you know, and they're behind a tree and sometimes they'll be 3 or 4 times wider than the tree they're behind, but they're just, you know, doing their thing.
Right. So, Damon, give us one last story, the story that just blows you away, that either on an expedition, something you encounter personally, or maybe somebody encountered on an expedition you were on that you just wish you were there.
Okay. This happened back in 2016. I was, again, this is another BFRO expedition as well. We were camping, me and my girlfriend were camping in tents, and we had been out on night hikes. We got back probably about 2:30, hit the sack about 3 o'clock finally. About 5, and I usually put dog food, big dog food out, big kernels, the big kernels about the size of a quarter. I put those out in an those aluminum pans that you bake with, they make a ton of noise.
So you're trying to feed the raccoon or what?
I'm sorry?
So you're trying to feed the raccoons? Is that what you're trying to
feed the raccoons? That's exactly what I'm doing. So I put that dog food out in that big tin pan, and the picnic table was probably about I don't know, probably 25, 30 feet away from the tent. This was at 5:20 in the morning. I was hearing these owls, and they were going back and forth, woohoo, woohoo, and one was close, one was far, and they were back and forth. And I go, those aren't owls. And it kind of woke me up, And then the next thing I know, I hear something eating the dog food. Now, it put a huge handful in its mouth, and it sounded like a kid eating Captain Crunch with a microphone up against his cheek. It was so incredibly loud. It was no, it would have had to have been a bear. I mean, it was just incredibly loud. And then I woke up Sandy, and she heard that. And then I started unzipping the sleeping bag, and then I heard something. I heard a couple footsteps, and it left the tent. Left the area. The next thing I know, I hear the owls again. And next thing I hear something walking around the tent. And I mean, it was probably less than 2 feet away from the tent. It sounded like an elephant walking on 2 legs. Every time it put its foot down, it just the way it crushed the leaves and the sticks and everything under each step. It was absolutely amazing. I didn't try and get out. I didn't try to get back out of bed. My girlfriend was afraid that it was going to grab the tent and start swirling it around in a circle and throw us down the side of the hill. But we walked around the tent, and the next thing we know, the lid for our which was right against the tent, our cooler, they lifted up the lid that was there. They lifted up the lid, and it grabbed a plastic water jug. a water bottle, and I heard the crunch of the water bottle a little bit. Now we just couldn't believe it. But that went on for probably, I don't know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And then the next thing I know, we heard something walk away, and that was it. I don't know if somebody else had gotten out of one of their tents or whatever the case was, but it walked off, and we really didn't hear too much after that. But it was a pretty amazing minute or two when it was walking around the tent. It was like I say, less than 2 feet from the tent. I mean,
wow.
each footfall would just completely crush the leaves and the small sticks, and it was, like an elephant on two legs. That's the only way I could describe it. No human being could make that noise. There was
exactly
hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 pounds behind each one of those footsteps.
right.
But that was pretty exciting. That was really exciting.
Well, if that didn't get you excited to go on a BFRO expedition, I don't know what did.
That's right.
So we're running out of time here. You were worried that you wouldn't be able to talk for an hour, Damon.
Yeah.
It's been an hour.
Okay.
So
you did great.
Yeah, you did great. So advancedthermaloptics.com is your website.
Correct.
They can actually go to bfro.net, click on thermal, and they can buy the thermals off there also. That comes right from you. If they have any questions, I'm sure they can go to the website and email you. Anything like that, they can contact us on Wide Open Research, and we can get information to them from you. We'll hook you up with them if we have to. Other than that, we appreciate you being on. We definitely have to get in the woods soon. Down to Clear Creek's not that far away. We can get down there and get out in the woods, and hopefully we can have some interaction with these things. And any final words? How can they get a hold of you besides the website? Any way?
That's the easiest way to get a hold of me,
Okay.
right? The website is absolutely I check that, every half hour,
Okay.
during the day. So it goes right to my email. So I get those on my phone, or if somebody has any questions, I can get back with them. If they trying to figure out which thermal is best for them, it depends on, how often they're going to use it. I mean, if you're going to use the thing all the time and you have questions about it, start off with the BFRO, the S243W is just a phenomenal, for the $1,000. It's the best 1,000 you'll ever spend on a thermal. It offers the same quality that anything almost twice its price does. It's just amazing, except for the Pulsar line. Again, really great product for the cost.
Okay. All right, Russ, anything for
Hey,
him?
thank you, Damon, for taking time. Brad and I always speak kindly of you, and we really appreciate what you and Sandy are doing. So thanks for taking the time.
All right. Thanks for having me. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Damon. All right. That was very informative, very instructive, and some great stories. What else do the listeners really want?
I mean, we all want stories, right?
Right.
And I probably wanted to drag one more out of them, but we ran out of time. But I mean, I think the thing that impresses me the most is battery life right now. That's always been such a big hassle and hindrance, and dang, man. I mean, and just being able to leave something sit out there, during the night. Remember, we used to have to set it up. Darren would always have a special stand for his thing to watch over a campsite, and then it would mess up. And
yeah. Back in the day, because you had to buy that little. Remember, there was a little thermal that was a little size of like a GoPro, and it was just like the lens, and you had to have wires that went down to a recording device, and you had to have an external power running it. So it wasn't easy to use.
No. Hey, while I'm thinking about it, I want to say, I spent about an hour talking to Doug Highcheck, which is Brad and I's boss, this weekend, and it was interesting to. I guess we didn't realize how many people were listening and enjoying the podcast and the encouragement that he gave us. So I just want to tell everybody, thank you, for the people that don't subscribe. Brad and I are going to continue to try to do a good job at this. And, if a lot of people have been reaching out with people they'd like us to have on. Brad and I are working on getting some other witnesses as well on.
Sure.
And that's all I got, man.
All right. Well, then if that's the case, then we're out of here. Subscribe. wideopenresearch@gmail.com. Hit me up. Wide Open Research on Instagram. We're going to try to do a little bit better job posting on there. The Bigfoot Doc on Twitter.
The bigfootdoc.com, West Virginia Bigfoot. I'm always putting stuff on that on the Facebook page. That's not limited to West Virginia stuff. It's Bigfoot in general.
Absolutely. And on that, we're out of here.
Thanks, everyone.